May I have your kind attention, please? We are about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here to observe the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. Today we have us, Professor Delwar Hussain, Member Public Service Commission and eminent expert on international relations, also on Palestinian affairs. We have invited him as keynote speaker. Mr. Mohammed Emdadul Islam Chaudhry, Director General, Minister of Foreign Affairs, in looking after the UN wing, he is among us a special guest. Mr. Yusuf S.Y. Ramadan, Ambassador, Embassy of the State of Palestine, is among us and he is guest of honor today. The meeting will be presided over by Begum Majeda Shaukat Ali, Vice President UNAB. May I request the keynote speaker, Professor Delwar Hussain, special guest Mr. Mohammed Emdadul Islam Chaudhry, Palestinian Ambassador Mr. Yusuf S.Y. Ramadan, and Chair of the meeting Begum Majeda Shaukat Ali to kindly come to the dais. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the United Nations Association of Bangladesh in this occasion. All of us know that we have hundreds of days which is celebrated by the United Nations throughout the year. The United Nations Association of Bangladesh observe usually 10 to 15 occasions. Among them, Palestinian Solidarity Day has a special significance and importance for United Nations Association of Bangladesh. I have been associated with the UN Association of Bangladesh since 1977. The Palestinian Solidarity Day was first observed by the UN and also by the United Nations Association of Bangladesh, and since 1978. And I remember we have never failed to observe Palestine Solidarity Day except one occasion when curfew was imposed in Dhaka city. We could not observe it. This year, the day has special importance when we have gathered here. More than 15,000 Palestinians were killed by the brutal Zionist forces, where more than half of them are children and women. Yet, Netanyahu has not been declared war criminal. With this word, I welcome you once again, and before we move to the keynote speaker, with the kind permission of the chair, may I request you to observe a minute of silence in memory of the martyrs in Palestine. Thank you very much. I have already introduced him. He is an expert on the international relations, a professor of the international relations in the University of Dhaka, and presently serving as the member of the Public Service Commission, Professor Delwar Hussain.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank UNAB for organizing this very important event, observing the day, very, very special day, and also to give me an opportunity to share my thoughts with you on this very, very important day. I have a written kind of speech. So before I start, I mean, if you look at the statistics of today, I was watching Al Jazeera, where I get some understanding of the brutalities or atrocities what is happening in Gaza. We all know, I mean, we have already heard that 15,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 7 of this year, and out of which is very, very significant, that 6,150 are children and 4,000 are women. So you can see, and we have, we could see Ukraine war is happening and how many children died there or killed there, or women. But here you see that 6,150 children were killed, and then 36,000 injured, 7,000 missing. And what is very, I would say, very brutal, that 207 medical workers were killed, and 65 media workers and media persons have been killed. And UN, which is the body of the world, and this particular organization is also based on the UN spirit, and more than 100 UN refugee workers were also killed, and 1.5 million Palestinians displaced. And also, if you consider the situation there, even 1 million Palestinians were displaced from north to south. So that's the situation, and the UN Secretary General just has given a remark that what the Palestinians are facing is one of the darkest chapters of history. So I think this gives an idea about the importance of the day, about the importance of our, I would say, our role in the society. We live in a global society and we talk about globalization. So I think this is very important. So I would like to start with the remarks by our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh. And in our national parliament on 30 October 2023, she said the mother took shelter in hospitals with their children, considering that hospitals are safe, but the Israeli forces carried out an air attack there, killing women and children. A terrible thing happened. We have no words to condemn it. How could they attack a place like a hospital? We can never accept such incidents. It is our responsibility as a human being to protest against such incidents. So if we want to see the context of the speech of our Honorable Prime Minister, if we just say consider the anguish of a mother desperately fleeing to safeguard her newborn just hours into this world. Envision the heart-wrenching pain etched on her face. Picture a young boy grappling with fresh loss of his father due to airstrikes, and now facing the unimaginable tragedy of losing his mother. Contemplate the silent agony of parents whose speechless children endure unfathomable pain. Visualize a mother bereft of her 1-year-old child, left to witness the charred remains. Ponder the dire conditions: no water, no electricity, nowhere to seek refuge from relentless airstrikes as every hiding place crumbles away. Reflect on the father burying his son instead of witnessing milestones like graduation. Envision the untapped potential of a young girl now scoring for her next meal instead of nurturing dreams of emancipation for countless others. Just imagine this horror has plagued the Gaza people since October 7, 2023. What's even more staggering is that this portal barely scratches the surface of the grim reality they face. This is not a new phenomenon. The Palestinians have been suffering from this since the birth of the State of Israel in 1948. Their cries have been brutally disregarded. A specific day has been designated to foster solidarity, and we are gathered here to direct our attention towards that cause. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, excellencies, and fellow advocates for justice, on this momentous occasion, I address you today in recognition of International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. This day holds profound significance as it underscores our commitment to supporting the rights, aspirations, and dignity of the Palestinian people. It is a day when we come together to reflect upon the struggle faced by the Palestinians and to reaffirm our unwavering solidarity with their quest for justice, equality, and self-determination. You know, the ties between Bangladesh and Palestine go way back, all the way to fight for our liberation in 1971. Initially, not many countries were keen on recognizing the newly born Bangladesh. However, things took a turn in 1973 during the October War, when Bangladesh firmly stood by Palestine in their struggle against Israel. Bangladesh even went the extra mile, sending medical team and relief supplies to support the Palestinian cause. This gesture marked the beginning of a warm relationship. What's notable is how Bangladesh and Palestine are often described as having one of the most brotherly and cordial relationships. Bangladesh consistently advocates for independent Palestinian state and staunchly opposes Israeli occupation. They have been vocal about ending Israel's presence in Palestinian territories and pushing for the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. In the global context, Bangladesh stands alongside 136 other countries in recognizing Palestine as a state, a status granted since the Palestinian Declaration of Independence on November 15, 1988. The first significant meeting between Bangladesh and Palestine happened in 1974 during the second OIC summit, where father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Yasir Arafat engaged in high-level discussions. It's quite fascinating how these historical events have shaped the enduring friendship between Bangladesh and Palestine. In 1977, the General Assembly urged the yearly commemoration of 29 November as the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. On that specific date in 1947, the Assembly adopted the resolution regarding the partition of Palestine. Throughout Resolution 60 by 37, dated 1st December 2005, the Assembly made a request for the Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People and the Division for Palestinian Rights. They were directed to continue organizing an annual exhibit on Palestinian rights or a cultural event in collaboration with permanent observer mission of Palestine to the UN as part of the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people on 29 November. International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people is an opportunity for the international community to renew its commitment to the principles of justice, equality, and human rights. It is a call to action, a reminder that the quest for peace and justice requires collective efforts and unwavering dedication. As we gather here today, let us reflect on the conflict and explore avenues for a peaceful resolution that respects the rights and aspirations of both Israelis and also Palestinians. One cannot discuss the Palestinian struggle without acknowledging the profound impact of the Israeli occupation. The daily challenges faced by the Palestinians, restrictions on movement, lack of access to basic services, and the construction of settlements are stark reminders of the obstacles to a just and lasting peace. It is imperative that we, as a global community, address these issues and work towards dismantling the barriers that impede the realization of the Palestinian rights. The right to self-determination is a fundamental principle enshrined in international law. On this day, we reaffirm our commitment to upholding this right for the Palestinian people. The establishment of a sovereign and viable Palestinian state living side by side with Israel in peace and security is not only a moral imperative but also a prerequisite for regional stability. Human rights are universal, invisible, and inalienable. The International Day of Solidarity with Palestinian people reminds us that the pursuit of justice requires us to stand against oppression and advocate for the rights of the marginalized. It is a call to end the cycle of violence, promote dialogue, and ensure accountability for human rights violations. This year, the day brings sheer prominence due to the October 7 brutal attack by the IDF and to date it continues, although we know that ceasefire is continuing for, 6 days, because it has been extended for 2 days. The heinous attacks committed by the Israeli forces can only be described as a chilling genocide. Every convention pertaining to genocide and war crimes serves as a haunting reference to underscore the brutality of Israel's actions. Crimes that fall into the abyss of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The weight of these allegations echoes the depths of human suffering and calls for a resolute response to address the gravity of the situation. The government media office in the blocked enclave said on November 23 that the number of Palestinian deaths resulting from Israeli assaults on the Gaza Strip had risen to 15,000, that I have already mentioned. And not even hospitals, schools are thought to be safe. The IDF displayed its violence towards women, children, and hospitalized. Abu Hussein school strike resulted in deaths, according to a report released by Gaza Ministry of Health. Many displaced Palestinians were being housed in school in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, which was run by the UN Relief and Works Agency for the Palestinian refugees. And we all know how these refugee camps, hospitals are also bombed and just demolished. The Israeli military has also aimed at various national memorials and monuments across Palestinian cities, including the state of late President Yasser Arafat, the West Bank, and Mavi Marmara Martyrs Memorial in the Gaza Strip destroyed. This has been accompanied by escalated air and ground attacks in the besieged enclave since October 7. As the Israeli army continues its incursions into Palestinian territories in both the occupied West Bank and Gaza, a notable focus has been placed on sending Israeli bulldozers on a specific mission to demolish national memorials. The motivations behind these actions remain unclear, with no apparent reasons provided for such targeted destruction. And what is very clear in today's world, that Israel has committed genocide. As per the statement of the UN Secretary General, a staggering 41% were children who died and who were killed, while 25% were women. He also mentioned that every 10 minutes, one child was killed and 2 were injured. Marking this data, the UN Secretary General named Gaza a graveyard for children. Almost 200 medics, 102 UN personnel, 41 journalists. These are the data shared by UN Secretary General with the global community. Experts from the UN have found increased evidence of genocidal incitement in the Gaza Strip. UN experts are concerned with the overt intent of Israel regarding the total destruction of Palestine as a nation. The alarming matter is that experts also speculate that the second Nakba may take place. Most of the experts have already raised the alarm of genocide in Gaza. They are also deeply concerned about certain governments backing for Israel's military approach against Gaza's struck population, as well as international systems' unwillingness to mobilize to avert genocide. UN experts also express concern about clearly genocidal and dehumanizing rhetoric from senior Israeli government officials, as well as some professional groups and public figures, calling for the total destruction and erasure of Gaza, as well as the need to finish them all and force Palestinians from the West Bank and East Jerusalem into Jordan. Given these atrocities unfolding, Bangladesh, as a nation guided by compassion, found it impossible to stay silent. Bangladesh holds the view that the ongoing audacious atrocities led by Israel in Gaza, specifically targeting civilians, are not only imbalanced and disproportionate, but are akin to collective punishment against Palestinian population in Gaza. This stance is considered a violation of fundamental human rights principles and goes against various international civil agreements and conventions. On that note, Bangladesh expressed strong condemnation on 15 October 2023 for the civilian casualties resulting from Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. The Foreign Ministry issued a statement noting that Foreign Minister Abdul Momen met with the Palestinian Ambassador Excellency in Dhaka, Yusuf Ramadan. The statement emphasized the firm condemnation of these escalating civilian casualties, particularly among women and children, and decried the disproportionate use of force in Gaza. Additionally, Bangladesh called on the global community to take collective action towards establishing peace in the besieged enclave. Bangladesh, Bolivia, South Africa, Comoros, and Djibouti have collectively urged the International Criminal Court to conduct an investigation into circumstances prevailing in the Palestinian territories. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court confirmed on November 17 that collective request had been submitted by these 5 nations for inquiry into the situation in Palestinian territories. On October 12, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina appealed to the global community to halt the ongoing conflicts including the one involving the Palestine. She emphasized the ordinary citizens bear the brunt of these hostilities and escalating arms race, urging for collective efforts for bringing about cessation of these wars. She said, I would like to request the international community to stop this. If the wars and the games with arms cannot be stopped, the common people will ultimately suffer. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina also, she told in the National Parliament of Bangladesh, human rights are talked about, but the rights of the Palestinians are constantly being violated. It must be stopped. We don't want this killing and war. We want Palestinians to get back their state. A proposal at the National Parliament of Bangladesh on October 30 was also unanimously adopted. It says Israel's brutal killings in Palestine have caused an extreme disaster of human rights. Prior to this, on October 18, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina strongly criticized purported Israeli assault on the Gaza hospital, resulting in tragic loss of hundreds of innocent lives and including children. Let's see what the rest of the world brings to the table for the support of the Palestinians. Numerous nations advocated for a ceasefire, and we see that currently a very short-term ceasefire is going on, and de-escalation with a range of international bodies, student organizations, charitable entities, different groups from different religions, Christianity, Islamic, and many religious groups also supporting the Palestinians. On October 27, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution supported by 121 states and opposed by 14, with 44 nations abstained. The resolution called for an immediate and sustained humanitarian truce and cessation of hostilities. As of November 6, 2023, Bolivia has cut diplomatic ties with Israel, while Bahrain, Chad, Chile, Colombia, Honduras, Jordan, South Africa, and Turkey have recalled their ambassadors from Israel, citing actions taken by Israel during the conflict. Besides, Prime Minister Alexander De Croo of Belgium urges Israel to take measures to avoid harm to civilians. And also we know that in different capitals of the Western world, even people have come out to support the Palestinians and to oppose the atrocities by the Israel. And we know what happened even in the US Congress, where actually we saw that some groups of people went to the hearing in the Senate of USA, where actually US Secretary of State was speaking, and their people went there and they was telling about peace, about stopping the war. So we could see a very strong protest from the civil society, from the common people this time, which is very, very unlikely, and we have not seen in the recent past. And this is something gives us hope Uh, In our pursuit of solidarity, we must recognize the importance of engaging in constructive dialogue and that fosters understanding and cooperation. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is complex and deeply rooted with historical, political, and cultural dimensions. Genuine peace can only be achieved through negotiations that take into account the legitimate concerns and aspirations of the Palestinians. The international community, through the UN and other multilateral forums, must play a proactive role in facilitating dialogue and promoting a just and comprehensive peace. Education and awareness are powerful tools in the quest for justice. On this day, let us commit to raising awareness about the Palestinian struggle and the broader issues surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. By fostering understanding and empathy, we can build bridges of solidarity that transcend borders and contribute to a global movement for justice and peace. It is essential to recognize the role of civil society, non-governmental organizations, and individuals in advocating for the rights of the Palestinian people. Dear audiences, the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people is a reminder that our shared humanity to the Palestinian people for more than 75 years. Let us renew our commitment to building a world where all individuals can live in dignity, free from oppression and injustice. The Bangladesh-Palestine friendship.
Thank you very much, Professor Delwar Hussain. We shall print this paper and distribute it to the audience in another occasion like this. The United Nations associations around the world work as a bridge between the United Nations, the national governments, and the peoples of the world. In Bangladesh, the United Nations Association of Bangladesh works closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today, we are very happy that we have among us Mr. Mohammad Amdadul Islam Chowdhury, Director General, UNAB, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh. I have the pleasure to invite him to deliver his speech as special guest. Mr. Mohammad Amdadul Islam Chowdhury.
Madam Vice President of the United Nations Association of Bangladesh, today's keynote speaker, member of the PSC, Professor Dr. Delwar Hussain, His Excellency Ambassador of Palestine, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I thank the UNAB for inviting me to this important and timely symposium marking the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. I am humbled and privileged to be in the audience of today's enlightening and elaborate keynote presentation by eminent Professor Dr. Delwar Hussain. Distinguished guests, I'd like to express our solidarity with the Palestinian people for their continued sacrifice to materialize their inalienable right of self-determination. The great sacrifice of the martyrs during our War of Liberation in 1971 inspired us to shape our principled position to support the just struggle of the oppressed people and stand against imperialism, colonialism, and racialism all over the world. This firm commitment is duly reflected in our Constitution. Our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, offered unconditional support to the Palestinian people in his maiden speech in the United Nations General Assembly in 1974. He reiterated our unwavering support for Palestine in his statements delivered at the second conference of the OIC in the same year, and before that in the fourth summit of the NAM in 1973. In continuation to his legacy, his daughter, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, has remained a strong voice for the cause of Palestine. Professor Dr. Hussain also elaborated this in his keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, as we commemorate this day of solidarity, we are horrified to witness the killings by the Israeli occupational forces of innocent civilians in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank, especially women and children, and including more than 100 precious lives of the employees of the United Nations. We are appalled by the indiscriminate attacks on hospitals, schools, religious sites, and other civilian infrastructure. It is disappointing that the Israeli authorities continue to show utter disregard to the human rights and international humanitarian laws. Ladies and gentlemen, in solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our parliament adopted a resolution on 30th October 2023 condemning and demanding an end to the genocide carried out by Israel and calling upon the Muslim Ummah to come forward effectively to protect the Palestinian people and to materialize their just demand. Bangladesh observed one-day state mourning on 21 October 2023, and we are one of the 5 countries that have made submission to the International Criminal Court to investigate the genocidal acts committed by the Israeli authorities. Distinguished guests, we welcome the temporary ceasefire as a positive step. However, we continue to call for a complete and permanent cessation of hostilities and urge all concerned to exercise maximum restraint. Professor Hussein mentioned about the UNGA resolution adopted at the emergency special session last month, calling for an immediate, durable, and sustained humanitarian truce leading to a cessation of hostilities. We co-sponsored that resolution. We recognize the efforts of some of our friends, including some permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, to reach a consensus resolution in the United Nations Security Council last month. We regret that such efforts couldn't eventually succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we reiterate Bangladesh's firm support for a two-state solution, envisioning Palestine and Israel coexisting as independent states, free from occupation, in line with the UN Security Council Resolutions 242 and 338. We firmly believe that this approach can pave the way for a sustainable peace and stability in the region. We call upon all parties to prioritize dialogue, diplomacy, and humanitarian efforts to achieve a just and lasting solution to this conflict. May peace prevail everywhere on the earth. Thank you, and once again, special thanks to the UNAB for relentlessly continuing to raise its voice for justice and accountability for the people of Palestine. Jai Bangla.
On behalf of the organizer and the audience, I like to thank Mr. Mohammad Amdadul Islam Chaudhry, Director General UN, for his presence and eloquent speech. Now, may I invite His Excellency Mr. Yusuf S.Y. Ramadan, Ambassador, Embassy of the State of Palestine in Bangladesh, to deliver his speech as guest of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, before you, His Excellency Mr. Yusuf S.Y. Ramadan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Madam Vice President of the United Nations Association of Bangladesh, Professor Delwar Hussain, dear brother Mohammed Chaudhry, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Excellencies, Ambassadors, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to start by thanking you for participating today on this event with the Palestinian people, showing your noble support to the just cause of the people of Palestine. I would like to convey the gratitude of the State of Palestine and the Palestinian people to all our friends around the world participating in the celebration of the International Solidarity Day with the Palestinian people. This day was adopted in 1977 when the General Assembly called for its annual observance on November 29th. In 1947, the Assembly adopted the Partition Plan for Palestine, Resolution 181. The United Nations issued this resolution to emphasize its historical responsibilities toward Palestine and to confirm that the world, with its absolute majority, is still united around the just cause of the Palestinian people and around the international law and international legitimacy. Excellencies, the United Nations has passed several resolutions in favor of Palestinians. But we must reiterate our deep regret for the non-implementation of these resolutions, or even one of those resolutions, which has the implementation of this resolution, which has increased the conflict over many decades and caused grave hardship for the Palestinian people. Indeed, the American veto was a major reason for this failure. What we are witnessing in this period of barbaric aggression against Palestinians is nothing but the result of this international failure toward the right of the Palestinian people, and the failure to hold the occupation or the occupying state accountable for its crimes. During the 50 days, the last 50 days of criminal bombardment, barbaric war, the number of martyrs reached about 22,000 people. As Professor mentioned, 15,000 people, the people who were able to count. And then we have over 7,000 are missing under the rubble for more than 1 month. 8,176 are children. 4,112 are women. And the rest are innocent civilians and elderly. 67 journalists, 202 doctors and nurses. The number of injured people reached to 36,350 people. And ladies and gentlemen, those are not numbers. They are people. They have flesh, blood, they have feeling, they have parents, they have children, they have neighbors, they have belief, they have inspiration, they have dreams. All that is gone. Why it's gone? Because Israel was given a license to kill. It was given full support from the hypocrisy of the West, mainly the American. License to kill under the name of self-defense. I don't understand what kind of self-defense. One of the most powerful countries in the world, which considered to be the 7th largest power, go against 365, exactly 363 square kilometers with 2.4 million civilians inhabitants. And yet it's called a self-defense. The aggression completely destroyed more than 22 hospitals, about 55 health centers, and 46 ambulances, and displaced more than 1 million Palestinians from the north area to the south. In addition to the comprehensive destruction that will remain witness to the crimes of the occupation, all this under the pretext of self-defense. The unlimited military and financial support by the American government for the most extremist fascist Israeli government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu and his gang settlers is facilitating the destruction of our people. The Israeli government has called the Palestinian human animals, and one of the ministers wanted to eliminate us by bombing us with nuclear weapons. Excellencies, every year we have a different story. 2022 Qatar World Cup was a platform for solidarity with the Palestinian people and constitute a political event that went beyond this important sporting events. In contrast, 2023 is an unusual year for our people. They are facing horrific genocide. In fact, they're facing something which we cannot find the words in the dictionary to describe it. and those who are lucky enough to survive are forcibly displaced. Since 7 of October, the Israeli aggression has become more severe than in the past 75 years, since the first Nakba in 1948. The series of crimes of the Israeli occupation army against the Palestinian, and that's what I request the people of Bangladesh, the media of Bangladesh, when you talk about the Israeli occupation army, please do not call them IDF, because they have nothing to do with defense. IDF stands for Israeli Defense Forces, but you can tell it is not a defense forces, it's an occupation forces. This is, we should call spade spade. The Israeli occupation army against the Palestinian people began from the moment the Zionist state was born, built illegally on the top of our Palestinian land. This is deliberate brutality toward the Palestinian civilian in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank and Jerusalem. By the way, we have over 208 people were killed in the West Bank. And yet we don't have Hamas controlling anything in West Bank. The violence abused against us amounts to war crime. One of the most violent crimes of genocide against defenseless victims, civilians, in front of the brutal occupying forces supported by a world of double standards. The ethnic cleansing campaign uses lethal illegal weapons against innocent civilians, including children and women, intentionally starves them and displaces them from their land. Since the 1948 Nakba until today, the Palestinians have lived under difficult circumstances and injustice that cannot be overcome. They are subject to harassment, arrest, torture, military attacks, repeated settler terrorism, land confiscating, home demolishing, and Judaization of the city of Jerusalem. This ongoing tragedy in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank and Jerusalem reveals the extent of international injustice and silence. The displacement policy was the primary factor in this dispersal of the Palestinian people all over the world. Today, I stand before you as a live example of a family that was forcibly displaced from Palestine. I was born a refugee, I'm living as a refugee, and I might die as a refugee. I hope my son and my grandchildren will not follow the same step. I hope they will live in dignity in their home in Palestine. I have lived through this suffering, and what resulted from the Nakba is the catastrophe that Israel is trying to repeat once again by displacing the Palestinian people, forcibly displacing them from the north part of Gaza to the south part of Gaza. And the next step, it will be to Egypt, to Sinai Desert. And that is the Israeli policy. That is the mean of the Israeli policy. So Gaza will be under control when it becomes a land without a people, to justify to be for a people who acquire more land. But the steadfastness of our people on our land will prevent this, God willing. We, the Palestinian people, chose to live in dignity and die on the soil of our land. Your Excellency, despite the restriction, mass marches took place all over the world in solidarity with the Palestinians. And we highly value and appreciate all the countries and people that supported stood with us. The suffering of the Palestinian has awakened the awareness of people all over the world and some of their regimes, and has become a turning point against Zionism. Yes, it has taken the people decades to see the fact and the truth. Today, they chant in the name of Free Palestine and demand to stop the genocide. These people will be labeled by Israel as anti-Semitic. This is Israeli propaganda, a strategy of self-victimization by repeatedly using the Holocaust to appeal to the sympathy of the people around the world with what Israel considered to be its historical legitimacy. And what is happening now in Palestine has gone beyond the Holocaust, with the scale of violence much worse on the Palestinian people. Today, the free people of the world, including activists and students who are carrying out a global movement and standing by the Palestinian people, call for freedom, are faced with the threat of being fired from their jobs or expelled from their universities. The matter has also reached news broadcasters who have lost their jobs and journalists who have been deprived from participating in important international conferences. They are put under immense pressures just because they interviewed a Palestinian officials or ambassadors, Palestinian ambassadors, as happened to someone who interviewed me on the 10th of October. He was rejected from participating in an international conference in some European country because he interviewed the Palestinian ambassador. The occupation directly targeted journalists and doctors in Palestine and Lebanon who insisted on reporting the truth and working professionally despite the occupation's threat to them and their families. They lost their lives as a result of their adherence to their principles and their noble role alongside their people. Ladies and gentlemen, how can we call this war against Hamas? Hamas is a resistance movement. It's a Palestinian resistance movement. Whether some people agree or disagree with their ideology, they will always be a Palestinian and they will always be a resistance movement. With this level of killing, destruction, genocide, and siege, Israel's goal is not only to make Gaza uninhabitable, but to do that to all the Palestinian territories. The destruction of homes, schools, places of worship, and hospitals already protected under the international laws has paralyzed all aspects of life. It made me look at the inability of the world and international organization to protect human rights and freedom, especially when it comes to Palestine. I had to pause at the humanitarian truce agreement, one of the conditions of which was the exchange of prisoners. It is as if the world remembers just today that there is about 8,000 Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli prisons, including 3,000 after 7th of last October. The majority of them are children, are women, most of whom were held lately. They were women and children, without facing trials or any charges, while others are serving life sentences and being tortured to death. Some of them are awaiting the death penalties law, which the Israeli government is working on legislating. Yes, I do welcome the release of all prisoners. This should be a global turning point toward the Palestinian prisoners and highlight their suffering inside Israeli jail. Ladies and gentlemen, today we also renew our gratitude to the friendly, freedom-loving and peaceful, peace-loving people, peace-loving nation, and people around the world who continue to stand by our people. We are grateful for their solidarity and support for the right and legitimate national aspiration of the Palestinian people, including achieving our freedom and independence and just and lasting peace. We also welcome the positive role of the countries that stood by us and the role of the United Nations and mainly the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, and the humanitarian organization in alleviating the suffering of our people as much as possible. I extend my sincere thanks and appreciation for the role of Bangladesh at the official and popular level and the position of support for our Palestinian people. This friendly country responded greatly to the request of our children and women taking to the streets in thousands to express solidarity with their brothers in Palestine. I also welcome the role played by Bangladesh along with 4 other countries in referring the Palestinian case to the International Criminal Court. I value the historical position of Bangladesh as well as Sheikh Hasina's position in many global and international events, which always emphasize the right of the Palestinian people and the establishment of their independent state. Finally, we must assure you that our people will continue their struggle, will continue their path in order to obtain our legitimate right to establish our independent Palestinian state with Holy Jerusalem as its capital. And less than that will not be acceptable. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please be upon you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramadan. Before I hand over the microphone to the chair of the symposium, I like to thank the keynote speaker, Professor Delwar Hussain, special guest, Mohammad Imdadul Islam Chaudhry, Mr. Yusuf S.Y. Ramadan, Ambassador, Embassy of the State of Palestine, for participating in this seminar and addressing the audience. I also like to thank the members of the diplomatic corps, the ambassadors present here, and the representative of the UN bodies. I also like to thank the representative of the media, both visual and print, and audience present here. Ladies and gentlemen, now I like to invite Begum Majida Shaukat Ali, Vice President UNAB, to give her presidential speech. Begum Majida Shaukat Ali.
আমি প্যালেস্টাইন ডেতে প্যালেস্টাইন জনগণের প্রতি আমার সমবেদনা জানিয়ে দু একটি কথা বলছি। আজকে এখানে যারা উপস্থিত আছেন প্যালেস্টাইন প্রতিনিধি এবং আদার্স, আমরা আমাদেরকে স্মরণ করে দেয় ৭১ মুক্তিযুদ্ধের যেভাবে আমাদের উপরে অত্যাচার হয়েছিল, সেরকম প্যালেস্টাইনদের প্রতি যে অত্যাচার হচ্ছে, যে মানবাধিকার লঙ্ঘন হচ্ছে, তাদের প্রতি আমার সমবেদনা। আমি সর্বপ্রথম জাতির জনকের প্রতি আমার শ্রদ্ধা নিবেদন করছি, কারণ জাতির জনক বঙ্গবন্ধু শেখ মুজিব প্যালেস্টাইনদের প্রতি তার সমবেদনা ছিল। তাদের জন্য তিনি কাজ করেছেন। আজকে মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী সেই সুরে সেইভাবে সংসদে দাঁড়িয়ে তিনি বলেছেন যে মায়েদের প্রতি শিশুদের প্রতি অত্যাচার হচ্ছে, এটা বন্ধ করার জন্য তিনি বিশ্বের প্রতি আবেদন জানিয়েছেন। তা আমরাও সেভাবেই আজকে আমরা জাতিসংঘ সমিতি থেকে এখানে যারা আমরা উপস্থিত হয়েছি, আমরাও সে আবেদন জানাতে চাই যে এই যুদ্ধ বন্ধ করা হোক এবং এই অত্যাচার এবং মানবাধিকার লঙ্ঘন যে হচ্ছে এটা বন্ধ করা হোক। আমরা সবসময় প্যালেস্টাইনদের প্রতি আমাদের রাষ্ট্রীয়ভাবে যে সমবেদনা সবসময় আছে। আমি ছোট্ট একটি কথা উল্লেখ করতে চাই এখানে, প্যালেস্টাইনদের প্রতি কর্নেল শওকত আলীর একটি সমবেদনা ছিল। এক সময় যখন ওই সময় প্যালেস্টাইনের প্রতিনিধি যিনি এখানে ছিলেন, তিনি তার কাছে মুক্তিযুদ্ধে প্যালেস্টাইনদের প্রতি পাশে দাঁড়ানোর জন্য কিছু মুক্তিযোদ্ধা চেয়েছিলেন। তিনি তাদের প্রতি শ্রদ্ধা জানিয়ে বেশ কিছু মুক্তিযোদ্ধা সেদিন তাদের প্যালেস্টাইনে গিয়েছিলেন তাদের পক্ষ হয়ে যুদ্ধ করার জন্য। তো এখানে দাঁড়িয়ে আমি তার প্রতিও শ্রদ্ধা জানাচ্ছি। তিনি আজ প্রয়াত। তো বিশেষ কথা বলবো না, কারণ আমি নিজেও একটু বিধ্বস্ত আজকে। আমার ছোট বোন গতকালকে মারা গেছে। আমি শুধু আজকে এখানে প্রেজাইড করতে হবে এবং প্যালেস্টাইনের প্রতি আমার সমবেদনা জানানোর জন্য এই পরিবেশে আসার জন্য আমি অনেক গ্রাম থেকে ছুটে এসেছি। তো আর কিছু কথা না বাড়িয়ে আমরা এই মানবাধিকার লঙ্ঘন করার জন্য আবার আমি বিশ্বের প্রতি আবেদন জানাচ্ছি। বাংলাদেশের যারা আমরা মানবাধিকার নিয়ে কাজ করি তাদের পক্ষ হয়ে আমরা আবেদন জানাচ্ছি। সকলকে সুস্থতা কামনা করছি। আজকে যারা এখানে উপস্থিত হয়েছেন তাদের প্রতি আমার ধন্যবাদ এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন।